This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1150. I like the round numbers, 1150. And it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, it's artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What up, though?
From LA, you know from Social Club Misfits, it's Marty.
What's up?
Guys, I have a dilemma, and I need the advice of everyone on this show.
The wise sages. We have a lot of life experience.
I know everything, so just let me help you.
This is quite the pickle I'm in. Adjacent to my window is an intersection where that gets a lot of traffic, and I can see outside of it. Mm-hmm. And there is a woman on the street corner. It's only about 100 yards away. She's been there the last 2 days, and she's got some sort of sign. Okay, like she's doing some sort of protest. Now the problem is,
it's not like help me out.
It's not like it's a
loves
poster
you.
board.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But here's the problem. She came out yesterday afternoon. She stood there most of the day, and the poster board is bright yellow. Okay, the bright yellow poster board. Her message is written in what appears to be black Sharpie. Now, the problem is it's very sunny, and the sun is hitting off this poster board, and there's a lot of copy. There's a lot of message on this poster board. I've been staring at it for now a day and a half, and I can't read what it says. I was so curious. I went and walked out and kind of covertly acted like I was on the phone to get a closer look. It's very difficult to read. So what I can take by reading what I could on the sign, which I had to be right up on it. I had to walk right by her. She's in she's asking for the local news to come out for some sort of renters' rights thing. I know the other thing, the poster board has a lot of messages on it. Here's what I could take from it. The apartment building that she's protesting, this is her grievances that were written on the poster. There's a lot of
all of them. Yeah, she wrote all the grievances.
There's a lot of grievances
so
for a poster. Is unsafe porches, something about flood insurance, birds in the air conditioning duct, and then just the word slumlord like 3 times. Okay.
So she Martin Luthered this thing. She nailed this. She Martin Luthered this is her list of grievances.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's what I'm bringing to you guys. All morning, I've been thinking about walking over there and having a talk with her about the poster itself.
About marketing.
I have no idea about the grievances. I have no idea about the birds in the air conditioning duct. That's beyond my pay grade. But what I can say is I'm 100 yards out. I am her target demo for this poster. Okay? There's no way cars are seeing it. The yellow poster is her problem number 1. We need big block letters here. Yeah. And you got to simplify the message. Okay? I don't need – you're throwing a lot of information at me. Okay? Just put slumlord on there once.
You just sparked a new business. Protester branding agency.
Come on.
It's like a consultancy.
Consultant, yeah. It's like, let's brand the poster this way, like, right?
You've seen like the going out of business guys, like they're out there with they have the stick and they have multiple posters on the stick. I'm thinking she's got to go 2-word massive one at the top, like ban slumlords or something like that.
Yes.
And then she can use the other posters to break down a couple of the key bullet points. But at least you can get the glance message.
She needs the subway sign, the one that's rolling around her back and she's spinning around. That's what she really needs. Because slumlord with the little pointing sign, she's spinning it over her back, doing the spin.
Wait, the arrow that says slumlord and she's outside of the apartment building.
Yeah.
That would catch our attention in yellow and black.
And honestly, if she doesn't have one of those wavy things that kind of like, I question her resolve, honestly.
Yeah.
Those,
it's like a car.
the twerking dancer fan things.
Here's the main problem with the messaging. It's the primary call to action is to the local news. Why is she here? Why is she? Does she want me to call local news for her? And a buddy of mine, one of my office mates was like, there's an Instagram account that does crazy news stories, that happen around the beach area here. That's more effective than the local news. More people watch that. Let's get them out here. There's just a lot happening with this strategy. And here's my thing, guys. I feel bad for her because it's a day and a half, and I don't think she's converting anyone.
No.
Should I go say something after the pod?
No, don't say anything. I think you have to let people fail.
Jesse, don't engage crazy on the sidewalk. You do not engage crazy.
What if these are legitimate grievances?
But
what if
honestly, like I said, for me, the type of dude I am, I'm trying to go like, look, give me $200. We're gonna redo your signs. We're gonna give you a whole rollout strategy for this, just for $200, and I'm gonna give you a discount to $200 because I believe in what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like it's a good cause. So.
I'll be frank with you. I don't help anybody. If you could be bloody on the corner with a kid playing the violin, I'm going to be like, I'm going to pretend I didn't even see you. I'm the worst. My wife gets so mad about it.
The biblical parable of the Good Samaritan does not
apply to me at all. I'm not helping. That was back then.
No
it's
conviction.
A new age, baby.
When you okay, got
no,
it.
I have zero. My wife. The only time I've ever helped somebody out was a guy that my wife thought he had a heart attack on the street. He was just a drunk guy. And when I rolled him over, his pants were down. He was trying to pee and fell flat on the ground. So his body parts were out, waving around. It was just a massacre.
This is a different scenario. I'm not trying to involve myself because I don't know the legitimacy of her grievances. I did, out of curiosity, Google the apartment complex because it's a nice place. This is not. It has 5-star reviews, so I don't even know the legitimacy of her grievances. But I have human empathy as just someone who works in media and knows how to deliver a message. She's doing it all wrong, and it's bothering me. It is literally.
So you're not upset that what she's going through. You're upset that the branding is so bad.
It's
that
terrible.
It just irks you.
You can't even read it, much less. There's too much
GPT
information.
could have written better copy.
Not care about the homeless guy. Cared about the homeless guy sign.
It's more about the sign. And I'm not trying to involve myself. But by the way, the kid playing the violin, I saw.
It was the worst.
Well, the other thing too, I saw online because I was at a shopping center. It was around Christmas time, and there was a kid and his mom out there, and he's got the amp, like a guitar amp, and he's got like
Middle Eastern,
a sweet looking electric violin, and the kid is wailing like some of the best violin playing I've ever heard, and he's got. Then I saw online that a lot of times it's pre-recorded.
It's always pre-recorded. It's always.
He
practices it. His mom makes him practice.
I threw a couple bucks in, and I'm not saying the kid wasn't playing, but I wasn't really it never occurred to me that this could be he was miming it. Maybe he was because if he was playing like Guitar Hero, the Violin Hero, he was killing it. I still would have given him the $5 because it was pretty good. It was pretty good, even if he was going air guitar.
The way I found out is I was walking to Home Depot, and they're no longer allowed to be on the side of the corner. They have to be in the parking lot now. So you see them in the parking lot, and I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, to the mom, like, can you play Overnight Celebrity? That's the only song I could think of with the violin. That's a rap song or something. And they were like, no. And I'm like, pre-recorded. This is all a lie. You guys can't do anything. You guys have to play Mozart 24/7. You get stuck playing this one song and it just loops and the kid's just going all out wearing half a Spider-Man costume, the whole thing. I feel no sympathy.
Why is it that always the Home Depot parking lot too?
Yeah, that's the last people that can help you out. We're trying to work. If you're in that parking lot, I'm trying to get like a screwdriver. I need to do a job. That's not where I have money for somebody.
I'll tell you this. This is the thing about the Home Depot parking lot. Okay. At least by me. I don't know if this is regional or not. Home Depot parking lots were way ahead of the food truck movement.
100%. The hot dog truck.
You could go there to the Dominic's sausage and Philly cheesesteak. This because now food trucks are everywhere. They were so ahead of the game on food trucks. You come walking out of Home Depot because, to your point, Marty, a lot of people walking out there are going to the job site all day. They need a hearty meal. They need to fuel
Nathan's.
up. I'm going for like tape or something. You know what I mean? I'm not.
You're getting a 2-pound bratwurst on your way in.
And I'm like, give me
the Tony Soprano.
And it's like, dude, this is going to be 3 meals for me. I'm chopping this thing up. It's a great deal. They were way ahead of the game.
All right. Well, we have a great show in store for you. I don't know how to get out of that. Seriously.
Honestly, I sometimes just go to Home Depot just to get a hot dog because I don't know where else you could buy a hot dog.
Costco. So. I go to Costco for the $1.50 hot dog.
That's very true. The $2.99.
It's like outside. It's perfect. Anyway, we do have a great show in store for you. Coming up later, we talk to Phil Wickham and Brandon Lake. They are going to go on a tour together, nationwide tour this summer. Tickets go on sale today, so that's why they're joining us on the show. We talked to them about that. Also, at the end of the show, we have your feedback, but stay tuned right now. Emily joins us for Relevant Buzz. You're listening to Remy Wolf. The song is Cinderella.
Season 4 of The Chosen is in theaters now, and the reviews that count are in.
Amazing. Did not disappoint.
Flurry of emotions. It was powerful, heartbreaking, uplifting.
You have got to come and see it. It is a message for everybody. I highly recommend that you come out and see The Chosen Season 4.
Episodes 1 through 3 of The Chosen Season 4 are in theaters till February 14th. So visit thechosenriseup.com and get your tickets now. That's thechosenriseup.com for tickets today.
Okay, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Please welcome to the show our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown, to tell us what's happening this week at the intersection of faith and culture. Hey, Emily.
Hey, y'all.
What's going on this week?
All right, we do have to talk about Kanye West.
Yay.
Yeah.
Do we?
Honestly,
Yay.
I have a feeling this will be one of the last times we talk about him. We
Oh, no.
Nothing.
Jesus, Lord, please, nothing happened to him.
We first started covering him back in 2019 when he was dropping Jesus is King because it was pretty shocking. Someone like Ye would transition to Christian music. But he was saying pretty bold things about his faith back then, too, even bolder than you may remember. I actually want to read this quote from him in 2019. He said, "Now that I'm in service to Christ, my job is to spread the gospel, to let people know what Jesus has done for me. I've spread a lot of things. There was a time I was letting you know
STDs.
what high fashion had done for me. I was letting you know what the Hennessy had done for me. But now I'm letting you know what Jesus has done for me. And in that, I'm no longer a slave. I'm a son now, a son of God. I'm free." Pretty bold there, right? He went on to win Dove Awards, Grammy Awards for Jesus is King. In 2021, he dropped Donda, which still had faith content and was a non-explicit album. Since then, he's been involved in a lot of controversies that we actually don't have time to get into. But he most recently released Vultures, which is a very explicit album. And people noticed right away, it seemed like Ye was going back to his old ways. And some fans weren't sure if that just meant musically or if that also meant his faith went away. And he hasn't really addressed any of that until now. Last week, he did an interview where he finally addressed what he thinks about God. And we've got a clip here of what he had to say.
Are you in that space where you're comfortable enough to say, this is where I am right now? I'm still a man of God. Jesus still is king, but this is Vultures right now. This is where I am.
It is, but I have my issues with Jesus. There's a lot of stuff I went through that I prayed and I didn't see Jesus show up. So I had to put my experience in this world, my experience with my children, my experience with other people, my experience with my account, my experience with my brand, and my experience with the level of music that I was dealing with in my own hands. Like a lot of times I just feel like in our society in America, people, Christians, we'll depend on Jesus so much that we won't put the word in ourselves. And the main thing that really that I don't rock with is it's just always like, I'm gonna pray for you. And it's just like, you can actually physically do something yourself too, more than just pray. And we're so in this mentality that's all that needs to happen, but we ain't praying our way out of prison. We ain't praying our way out of the abortion clinics. We ain't praying our way to get our land back that was always ours after gentrification, after the Harlem Renaissance and Black Wall Street was burned to the ground. Them prayers ain't working. We have to apply actual physical building partnerships, and it don't start unless we could really be real with each other and say, this is what I did, this is what I did. Look at this.
He goes on from there. The crazy thing to me was hearing him say that he's not really doesn't have a faith anymore because after he professed his faith in Jesus, he lost his bank accounts, he lost his brand deals, he lost his family, and where was Jesus when I lost everything? And so he walked away from his faith, which says to me, maybe he didn't quite have a substantive belief and, like a traditional Christian belief. If you're going to throw away, your faith
within
because
6
you
months.
you went through a hard season.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty much guaranteed, buddy.
I got a slight counterpoint as the Ye fan and the weird guy, but I think the way he framed it was bad, which he frames stuff bad all the time. Like when he says, I have a problem with Jesus. And then he says, where was Jesus with this? But what I caught was he said a lot of times as Christians, we think that it's almost like he was saying, to me, it felt like he was saying, I'm taking autonomy over my career again. Like people saying, hey, I'll pray for you when they can actually physically help. So I'm not saying that he's like, clearly when you listen to Vultures, it's like he definitely done went to a whole different vein. But I don't know if it's why didn't the Christians do all of this? So I'm leaving. I think it's more like, nah, I'm just going to take my life back into my own hands, which is when you think about his journey from an immature believer, that's how a lot of immature believers start. We all start off thinking that you get saved and then God is just going to fix everything. And then you have that bam smack in the face like, nah, you have to discipline yourself. God's not going to just magically erase all of the things that you've done in your life. And you're still going to have to deal with the fruit of those decisions. So right. I will say this, I'm not caping saying, oh, he's still Christian or whatever, but I'm saying I think the critique is not what a lot of people think the critique is, which is, oh, he's just saying that because Jesus didn't do all these things, I'm out. It sounds like he said, man, hey, I tried this Christian thing. Like I tried it the way people said, which is just pray and God will fix everything. And I just realized I got to fix things on my own. I got to go get it myself.
That's not Christianity though. That's not being a believer. That's not having a faith in Jesus as Savior and Lord in your life. Like that's like he had a totally misguided view of what a Christian is. Bingo. So he was professing the wrong thing.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is what I said from the beginning, which is I wish because the stuff I heard him saying sounded very baby Christianish from the beginning. And I'm like, I wish that he had mature people in his life that would tell him, this is what being a believer is. This is the cost. This is that. So now you don't have this, because you see a lot of Christians in the same boat, which is they come to Christ. They think that Christ is going to fix everything. He doesn't fix everything. He says, no, it's your mess. You get to fix it. I saved you from the penalty of your sin, which is eternal damnation in hell. Now go fix your marriage.
And God is with us in the hard seasons. He walks with us in the valley of the shadow of death. Like he is our hope, not that he's going to, save us from having to go through hard seasons.
But there's also a whole point of the gospel is like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like, we're not going to bow before the king. Good because God will save us. But even if he doesn't, like, even they weren't like, look, he doesn't owe us anything. He might not save us. There's a chance here. What did Lazarus, Mary say when Lazarus died? Where were you, Jesus? You failed us. Like, this is your fault. You could have saved him and you did. Now, obviously, in that case, he raised him from the dead. But the reason Jesus wept wasn't because he lost his friend, because he knew that he could revive him from the dead. The reason it was is because he knew people were counting on him and he didn't show up. Like, that is, that's not.
I mean, I would even here's my counterpoint. Like during the season where Ye was quote unquote Christian, he was still saying the worst possible things. I mean, like literally destroyed his career, on a major level, took a big dent. I've never seen a career of an artist take such a big dent, but still be able to progress because like he starts saying this stuff about African Americans, about Jewish people, about like there's so many elements of also his career that he did. Secondly, like God's not a genie, right? Like you didn't get what you wanted. So like, again, I agree with all you guys, but I think that in the middle of his I think my two problems was in the middle of Christianity, he's still saying crazy stuff. But the second thing is how the church opened up their arms without vetting him at all, without waiting to see like, hey, if this is God, it's going to last. Immediately, as soon as he did it, he's performing at Joel Osteen's church, playing his album. Like, we accepted him with open arms without even being like, there's a scripture in the Bible where they ask somebody, it's in Acts, where he asked somebody like, are you going to say something? And the man in the Bible is like, listen, if it's of God, it's going to last. If it's not, it's going to fall apart. And I think that we are so quick to just jump on the excitement of seeing one of our heroes accept Jesus and enter into a relationship that we're willing to forget all the Bible's teachings of putting people in the front and elevating people too early. We messed up as a church in the way that we handle celebrities because we're so easily swooed, I'm
going to say there's one scripture to go what you said, Marty. 1 Timothy 5:22, Paul says, lay hands suddenly on no man.
Yeah.
And the church does that every time for clout. Yeah. Like, we've seen it all the way back to Mace, when Mace started his church. Remember when Mace became Pastor Mace?
Yep.
And
100%.
we just rolled the red carpet out for this guy. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, you do a disservice to the Christian, the baby Christian, and you do a disservice to the body when we chase clout. I'm sorry, Emily, but I just wanted to make sure that I tagged that onto the back of Marty's part.
No, I totally agree with you. And I was actually just going to kind of add on to, or kind of confirm what you're saying, because I do agree the church should have discipled him better. And it's also clear that he needed a disciple, because later in the interview, he talks about something else that to me immediately struck me as like, when I was a baby Christian, I had this thought too, but I had mentors and pastors and leaders who walked me through this theology. We're going to play the clip now, but it's where he's talking about, really, he's just describing a misunderstanding about the fear of God. Here's the clip.
It's another thing I don't like in Christianity, the fear of God. If God is love, why should you fear him? Because you place one fear, you get another fear, you get another fear. What do you have at that point? You're easily controllable. You're easily sellable. You're easily contracted because you have this fear on you. Like, everybody gonna die eventually, but I'm gonna live my entire life with zero fear. Fear of a contract, fear of perception, fear of getting my black card denied.
So clearly a misunderstanding of not even understanding what the fear of God is, the awe of holiness. And it's just like, this is not even a baby Christian. This is a guy who just kind of picked phrases here and there, and said, I'm a believer now. And it feels like we talked about certain social media influencers who have been grifters or known to be grifters. And he kind of looked back at that Jesus phase that he went through and kind of going, he kind of like grifted the church there for a few years, I don't know. Just
I remember sad. Going on tour, and we'd go to tour stops, and every church we went to was playing Jesus is King. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how odd is that like he's just being like, he jumped the line in the sense of all these there's other Christian artists out there, but he jumped the line in terms of pop culture. So everyone just readily accepted something they just were unfamiliar with, not knowing that he literally is a bipolar human being. I mean, I love Kanye West. I'm a huge Kanye. Everyone is. Who isn't? I think we all are. But I do think that, I guess now that I have a kid in this world, a lot of the messaging that I see from people, I'm like, I got to explain this to my kid as he gets older. How do you explain someone as erratic as that, who literally got divorced, got remarried, got this, like in that transition of him being a Christian artist to Vultures, a lot happened, a lot. I mean, he literally hired Nick Fuentes as a part of his team. He hired that guy Milo, like he hired like white supremacists. Like, you're complaining that God did what in the middle of you doing all the craziness that you did? Are you sure? It's almost like the story of like the guy who's like, I need God's help, and the God's like sends a helicopter. It's nah. Need God's help. And the guy's like, okay, like you're getting what you want, and it's not what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's frustrating too, because I think I don't know if you experienced this, Marty, but especially the time when he became a Christian, which was kind of like on the back end of a lot of the political stuff, like people weaponized Kanye becoming a Christian against a lot of my friends. Like, y'all should start rapping more like Kanye. It's like, bro, we've been serving y'all for a decade plus. You know what I'm saying? Like, going to your churches, like investing in your youth, and this guy becomes a Christian overnight. And then now you're saying like, like weaponizing him. And then now I'm like, did it work? Like, should I still be more like Kanye? Do you still feel that way? Like, because I'm still here serving the body, right? And now he took Christianity on. He put Christianity on like a jacket and took it off overnight.
Yep.
And now your kids are confused.
Yep.
You know, and he has white supremacists in his cabinet and all this stuff. And so should we still be more like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, speaking of sort of people who have used Christianity in a not holy way, in a surprise twist, Christians showed up in the New York Times this week because they did a whole article about what they're calling, quote, raunchy Christians. Like it's this new trend among Christians who are, you know, cussing and rough around the edges. But when you read the article, it's pretty clear they don't really know what they're talking about because they talk about Christians who have, this is a direct quote, who have a raunchy outsider boobs and booze ethos and are gaining prominence in Christianity while doing these things. But they mention people like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert as examples. And they aren't examples of a new wave of leaders in Christianity. Yeah. They are leaders of Christian nationalism, which is like a whole separate thing. And the only thing there's been a rise in is raunchy political leaders who use Christianity for their own personal gain.
Yeah, exactly.
Bars! Bars!
You're saying that relevantstore.com needs to get rid of the boobs and booze shirt that we have for sale? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm saying, she's saying that we need to all see Beetlejuice. That was a play that that Lauren Boebert saw, Beetlejuice. Was that it?
Yeah.
He's saying during the Beetlejuice situation wasn't really working for us.
Let's just say there's a lot happening right now, but they seem to be conflating quite a bit because I think anyone who is a member of a youth group or ever went on a youth retreat understands that raunchy Christians have always existed at all age levels. It's just been... It's just the appropriation on the political level to a weird version of values has grown.
It's just a symbol of the time that we don't have Christian leaders anymore. You've noticed that, like back in the day, this conversation like 5-6 years ago, it was like Carl Lentz, Judah Smith. There were certain faith key leaders that were just shining. Now it looks like our faith leaders are.
Hey, don't lump Judah. Don't lump Judah into that. Judah's doing he's stayed strong, man. He's still doing it.
No, listen, I'm not saying like in terms of that. I'm saying 6 years ago, those were the leaders of the king. Like
just
it was Rich Wilkerson
in them.
Yeah, it was Rich Wilkerson. It was Carl. It was Judah. Rich is like a friend of mine. I love him to death. I've gone to church, Food Church for 6 years. Like that wave of leaders was all people that we all looked up to and like respected when they spoke on certain topics, whether it was Black Lives Matter or justice, we all wanted to hear because we felt like we trusted them enough to give us the proper godly perspective. And now we have very few leaders that I think collectively we could be like, yeah, let's see what he has to say. I'm waiting for what he has to say, you know? And that's bothersome to me, I feel like.
That's an interesting point because when people would say Christian leaders, those were the rock stars. Rich Wilkerson, those guys would be like, that's the people that you would say, okay, these guys are holding the banner for the faith on the progressive end. Now it's like you said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't even want to do this to my bro because I love him, but it's like you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then you have the influencers, you got the Mike Todds and the Tim Rosses. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you don't have you don't have that I guess almost like fraternity of Christian guys like that.
Like
you know
thought leaders.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot because here's what's changed. And this is weird. It's the gatekeeping thing. Same thing that happened in music and everything else. Social media spread everything out and tribes formed, right? So it used to be that like I'll just say it, back 10, 15 years ago, who Relevant put on the cover is kind of like, let's listen to who so-and-so said, what they're saying. Yeah. And or whoever's on the stage at Catalyst or whatever. It was like there was a gatekeeping kind of moment where everybody was listening to a smaller group of vetted, kind of voices.
They're all connected to a church.
And now social media is like, you have the Mike Todd tribes and you have the Marjorie Taylor Greene tribes and whatever. And you get in these little bubbles and there isn't voices that have risen above it. Even people like Judah and Rich who have stayed strong, Chad, who have stayed strong from that era, like it's almost like they're still a big deal to their fans, but like the national voice that they used to have is like there's no platforms for that anymore. Yeah.
I think Hillsong, I think a lot of those big, I think people in general, I mean, even the way that we look at Christianity now and Christian music, it's completely switched. Like the type of fan that is out now is like a Hovey fan. Like when I think of like the new era of Christian youth group kid, that kid's a Hovey fan. That kid's a Forrest Frank fan. Right. That kid is, I know what he looks like. You know, he looks like them. He dresses like them. Right. It's a certain vibe. And those are the people I see in social media, you know, like, it's the cringy to me. Like it's not, they're not cringy, but their fans like are the ones who will be on social media and they're singing a song while the door opens and they're like, glory to the Father. You see those videos where they all start walking up, these like 40 white people and they're standing there like in solidity. Like, yeah, they're just like, glory to the Father. You know, they're all singing, standing up. Like that's who the new era of Christianity is. And it's, I feel like for a lot of people, it doesn't connect to the main, like it doesn't connect to the real world. It's now a tribe of Christians are over there, but like Judah, Carl, they were all intertwined with mainstream. So it mattered a little bit more when they said something because they were like, hey, you have that experience. Now it's like, we don't have anybody like that.
But I don't think that's isolated just to like faith leaders. I think we've seen the bifurcation of culture across the board. Like who is a movie star anymore? Who is a pop star anymore? Like it's, you know, the segmentation of culture because like influencers who tend to come and go and be hyper specific to demographics have taken the place of thought leaders. Agreed. Right. You could say that like I could go walk down the street and be like, hey, who's the most famous author in the world? And every person you ask is probably going to even do who's the biggest pop star in the world? Like maybe you probably get a lot of Taylor Swift, but outside of that, a lot of people are going to have different opinions. Who's the biggest Hollywood actor? You're going to get 5 different perspectives from 5 different people. I don't think it just is like in the faith space. I think, you know, influencer culture has
it feels like it
killed
stopped,
the
right?
monoculture.
Doesn't it feel like it stopped a little bit? Like our generate, like the millennials are still famous right now, and like the newer people are not as famous. You know, like our Taylor Swift's still going strong. Beyonce, like that comes from the millennials. But the new, like the Gen Zs, like I mean, Jake Paul, I guess, is that who we're talking about?
Everybody's tribalized. But that's Jake Paul will be huge to a certain demographic, and celebrity, another demographics never heard of him. You know. So, but again, like it's like I said, it's influencers, not thought leaders anymore. Who are, you know. But the pendulum will self-correct at some point. I don't know
for sure.
I don't.
You don't think so, Cam?
I always say that the pendulum always comes back around.
I do think there's a desire, whether it's in music or in what we're talking about now, thought leaders and stuff. I do think there's a clear need for the system of gatekeeping and development that doesn't exist anymore. Like before, you know, a young kid and trying to get into music, maybe has great talent, would get developed. They go play a ton of shows. They get A&R. They get developed. Then finally they get paired with really good songwriters, and then they can put out a song that becomes significant. Now that kid just puts it out himself 10 years earlier, and he's not ready for prime time, and it just doesn't, whatever. And everybody does that. So now it's just all noise. And there's not that thing of like the curated best of the best. And I feel like there's a desire in culture for that to come back in some way, but we can't put the genie back in the bottle on how people consume media. We are now in our tribe consuming algorithmic stuff that we're already we have a proclivity towards. And so where are we going to get exposed to those thought leaders or faith leaders that aren't already in my tribe? How am I going to get challenged? How am I going to be aware of something bigger than my own little interest bubble? And that's where it's like, I don't know how that's going to come back. But I do. People talking about like the rise of vinyl and slowing down and spending time intentionally with art and stuff like that. People have kind of said to me, magazines will come back one day. And I'm like, cool, I'm down if we do. Because like, I feel like there's only disposable media now. Like we do web articles and I read the headline and then it's forgotten. But magazine content, books, stuff like it's worth spending time with and sitting down and putting on music and just reading and thinking and considering these thoughts and these messages. There isn't anything for like that anymore. And I do think that'll come back. But in what form?
We went through this in varying degrees. I mean, just being older, dating ourselves. Remember when TRL was dope?
And it was centralized.
And then it wasn't.
Everybody looked at it. Everybody was like,
Rap City was dope, and then it wasn't.
And then
106 & Park was dope, then it wasn't. But what that gave, and then we went through that ugly phase where it's like, what's happening? And then you get the rise of Pigeons and Planes. You get the rise of Complex, and then they become dope. Now it's something different. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the idea is, I think the desire has to be there first. Like what you said, the people have to clamor for it first, and then someone will create the solution that'll say, okay, enough is enough. Come here for the curated, thought out, actually talented stuff. Go ahead, Jesse. I'm sorry.
No. You're, just to come behind that point, like, I feel like we just saw it happen with movies, right? People were like, movies are dead. Like, it's streaming. Everyone's watching their own thing. Everyone's in their bubble. And then all of a sudden you have like the Barbenheimer moment, and everyone's like, oh, everyone's watching the same thing again. And movies, everyone saw the same Best Picture. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I think to your point, Derek, the pendulum will self-correct. I think it's more accelerated in different mediums. But like I said, we just saw it. People were having the same conversation about films a year ago. Yeah. And now it's like, oh, it kind of found its way back. I think to your point, Derek, it needs that. There has to be some sort of cultural touch point, like what a TRL or Complex was to like a Barbenheimer in movies that will self-correct it, you know?
I definitely agree with that. Speaking of different media, though, I can't believe we're talking about this. Last thing I can't wrap my head around is a Sufjan Stevens inspired musical is premiering on Broadway next month.
It's lit.
I'm going to watch it.
I'm in.
That's crazy.
It's called Illinois. It's a musical theater adaptation of his 2005 album, Illinois. He helped work on the show's production, and it premiered last year off Broadway, but you can see it on Broadway beginning next month through August. Here's a clip of the teaser.
We had our mindset. All things know, all things know. You had to find it. All things know, all things know.
It's a great album.
Yeah.
One of the blessings of being on this podcast is y'all introducing me to people like Sufjan Stevens.
Oh yeah.
I'm not, because I had never heard any of his stuff had I not started hanging around you guys. So I just want to say thank y'all for real. Like, that dude is so crazy, man.
Yeah, I sampled him on Summer of George in 2012. That's how far ago his impact on our lives. I mean, like, it's funny though. It's like Tribes again. You know, it's Tribes. Yeah. We knew about him, and I thought he was going to blow up by now, but you know, he's still kind of underground.
Oh, he's very underground. But he does that intentionally. We had him back in the magazine, and I'm going to get the date wrong. Maybe 2005, 6, somewhere in there.
I might have got it from you guys.
But like we had a whole cover story with them. We had a photo shoot with them. Like it was a thing. Like,
I got yelled at by his stepfather at that point.
And,
wait, hold on.
Wait. Yeah. So listen, but here's what happened. Like, the whole cover story, everything. The day we're going to press, we get a call from his label, Asthmatic Kitty, and they are livid. They're like,
who his stepfather ran,
right?
At the time.
And they told us we refused to let him be on the magazine cover. And we're like, wait, what? We have the photo shoot, the cover's done, everything. We're going to press, and they're like, he had a magazine interview back in Europe like 3 years ago, and when it came out, they misquoted him, and he felt used and abused by the he's like, he's fine with being in the magazine, he just doesn't want to be on the cover. So we had to find a new cover the day we were going to press.
It wasn't that friendly.
But we had, because we were pushing back. Like, you agreed to this.
Jesse's traumatized.
I was young at the time. I was probably 21 years old.
Could you have been like, nah,
happened.
I'm sorry, it's stuck. Could you guys done that? Like, hey, it's too bad, it's done.
Yeah, but that would have burned a bridge forever. Like, we're not in the business of burning bridges.
From him after?
No, that was the last time he talked to us.
That's what I'm saying. You should have burned that bridge.
Well, but Asthmatic Kitty was doing like St. Vincent and like other cool artists, and we didn't want to burn the bridge. We'll play nice.
Jesse's crying in the corner.
Yeah.
It wasn't the last time I got yelled at by a publicist.
I'm crying thinking about Jesse, like 21-year-old Jesse just being, verbally abused.
Just picture this long, goofy hair answering the phone, and Sufjan Stevens' stepfather very upset.
You're a good, peaceful guy. I feel like you could have handled the screaming like, well, I don't know.
It was very shocking. It was shocking at the time. Just picture a long, goofy hair answering the phone after being very proud of the magazine put together, and Sufjan Stevens' stepfather very unhappy.
Yeah. So anyway, go see his play on Broadway. There you go, Illinois.
The only other person, and this is a story for another day, and I don't know if I've ever told it publicly, because just enough time has passed. The only other person who made me feel worse was Hannibal Buress, but that's a story for another day.
What?
Wow.
No.
Wow.
Do not. No, you can't drop that.
He wasn't on the cover either.
Just move on, bro.
He was
You
in the
have to
mag.
tell that story, bro.
He was in the mag.
Let me just say this. Never ask him about Bill Cosby.
He
Never
ripped
mention it.
into Jesse.
Jesse.
In the interview.
I was told not to, but I felt like it was my.
Hannibal was the one who brought it up.
Yeah.
He's the reason why
He has a
Bill Cosby
complicated
got in trouble.
relationship with that. Exactly. But now he has a very complicated relationship with that material. And to be fair, I was told not to do it, but I felt like my job was to do it.
He was promoting a new special or whatever, and they literally said, you can ask anything about the special, do not talk about the Bill Cosby stuff. Because he didn't want to be labeled as the Bill Cosby guy for the rest of his career, so he's trying to pivot away from it. And of course, Jesse ended the interview by asking about Bill Cosby.
But I'm a journalist. But I'm not. Ask our old friend, old time relevant podcast producer Jeremiah Dunlap, who was on the other end of the phone, and I think he's still traumatized by how that went as well. He was recording for me.
Yeah. All
Good
right,
brother, Jesse.
Good job. Thanks, Emily. That'll do it for
Relevant Buzz.
Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every weekday, where we are covering the intersection of faith, culture, and everything in between. See you, Emily.
Bye, guys.
You're listening to Joe. The song is In the Beginning. But if you're on TikTok, you know that. Well, today's show is brought to you by Bethel University. Bethel has a vibrant, Christ-centered community where you'll get the hands-on experience and attention you need to become who you're meant to be. Learn alongside your professors and complete top internships that'll equip you for a career and so much more. At Bethel, you'll discover how to use your gifts to make a difference. Explore your options at bethel.edu/more. Again, that's bethel.edu/more. Well, our guests today are worship artists Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham. They're co-headlining the Summer Worship Nights tour coming up, guess what, this summer. We talked to them about what to expect from the tour, as well as touring with Holvey and their ongoing bromance. Here is Phil Wickham and Brandon Lake.
So you guys are doing another Summer Worship Nights tour. What were some of the highlights from last year?
Oh, man.
Hanging out with my best friend, Brandon.
Yeah. Proper bromance happening. And so this is just an excuse for us to get together and hang out. And that's kind of what people experience, is kind of just us hanging out, playing our favorite songs. But no, on a more serious note, I think some of the highlights are when people have literally given their life to the Lord, and we give an invitation every night. It became very clear that that was a theme for the night, that we wanted to give an invitation for people to start a relationship with Jesus or to rededicate their lives. And we had one night a whole row of security guards like raise their hand to receive Jesus, and we weren't even planning on having church that night, and then they encountered the Lord, and so that was really special. I mean, for me, it's all the stories of life change are the highlights.
Yeah, goodness gracious, this was my favorite tour I've ever been a part of, and I've been touring for a while now. I started touring when I was 21. I turned 40 this year, and there's been a lot of tours, a lot of beautiful moments, but something about this just felt like the culmination of the answer of so many promises and even prophetic words over my life, and doing it a lot with so much unity, not just with Brandon, but the band. The band that plays at Summer Worship Nights is like part of Brandon's band and part of my band coming together, and then our teams are so connected, and just everything felt like so obviously the hand of God was upon it, and it just was so beautiful. It's like, obviously Brandon's doing cool. God is doing amazing stuff with Brandon's life, and there's things happening in my life too with the songs, and it's moving and growing. But like, and so you'd think like, well, let's put the two together, and then you get this, like 1 + 1 = 2. But it was like 1 + 1 = 10 with this tour. And I'm just so thankful for what God did in people's lives and my heart. And it was so great. I would say by the end of the first week, we just called our people. We're like, hey, let's start booking 2024 because we got it. This has to be a yearly thing.
Yeah.
Why did y'all decide to do a tour together in the first place? And how did y'all get connected?
Well, my hero has been, since I was 15, has been Phil Wickham, and that hasn't changed. And so
that's me. That's me.
Yeah, of course, it was already a dream of mine if I could tour with anyone or write a song with anyone. Phil was the top of that list. Fast forward, 15 more years, and then this wonderful man, Brandon Breitenbach, comes into my life, who is Phil's manager. And I don't have a manager, and I'm drowning. And so Brandon basically saved me in that season of my life as things were taking off. And Phil and I were on a tour together. And then Phil asked me to come and tour with him on the sing-along tours that he does. And we just became bros and started writing songs together. And as Brandon became my manager, it just made a whole lot of sense. It was like our whole families were just kind of uniting and becoming one big team. And so it just made a whole lot of sense. Why don't we just create a tour of our own, and God's breathing on my songs. God's obviously breathing on Phil's songs and using them to impact millions of people. Let's get out there together. There's nobody else I'd really love to lead these nights with than my bro. And we carry the same vision, the same heart. And I think it's cool too, because then there's unique parts to what I do. There's unique parts of what Phil carries that, like he said, it's like, it felt like, some, and we're not the only ones. So I'm not saying this pridefully, but it felt like a few Avengers coming together to go, let's do something together, and that can impact the kingdom and change people's lives. And also we could have a blast while we do it. And it was so much fun. We're like, let's run it back. I mean, why would we not do this every year? So I think as long as people want to come out and do it, we're in.
Is there anything new or different about this year's tour?
Well, there'll be some new songs. Brandon released a record just a month or two after the last summer worship night. So he's got like this whole load of new songs. Well, he was playing a few of them, but they were all brand new. And so to bring in that record is going to be awesome. My album, my last one that I released, I Believe, came out right in the middle of summer worship night. So those were all new songs too. So to bring in these songs that now, like, people that are familiar with our music have listened to and know, and we can draw from all those, is going to be awesome. There's some other new moments, and we're raising the bar on everything, I think. But at the same time, what won't change and what won't be new is just like the goal, and that it's always the same for Brandon and me, whether we're a Sunday morning singing at our churches, or a home fellowship with acoustic guitar in someone's front room, or at an arena, or wherever we are. We just want to sing songs about Jesus and create a moment where people can worship him and encounter him, and let the healing presence of God set people free, and the truth set people free. So all those things are still going to be the same. Just like swipe out some of these songs here and there. But like Brandon says, but every day is a new word from God, and new things happen on every tour date. So that's what I was really blown away by last year. It was like we had a similar set every night, but every night felt so different. Because God was doing something new, like in every city, and it was really special.
They were like prisons that we couldn't escape, but he came.
Well, I know y'all brought out KB last year, and this year Helvey is joining y'all. How did y'all get connected with Helvey?
Yeah, so he's been in our world as of late. Just God's been breathing on what he's been doing, and just have loved his songs. And then I got to meet him in person, and then we've had a few interactions through events that we've played at together. I just got to spend some time with him at Rock the Universe. And man, I think it was like that night we were talking, we're like, dude, like we got to bring Holvey. We got to collab with him in some way. He's so awesome. And I think for like 2 hours backstage, like he and I and his family, we were just talking. And I love that we really couldn't talk about anything else but how good God was and just what he was doing in our individual families' lives. And we end up praying over the security guard backstage. And I just think he carries a heart for revival, and his expression is fresh. And so, yeah, we're looking, to team up with people that carry that same heart and just want to see people's lives get rocked for the Lord. And he does that, man. And he's also, I love people that are, don't mind, running through some walls and even getting bloody, and he is pioneering in a great way. And I really look up to that in a lot of ways. And so, Phil and I just really love his music. And so, we extended the invitation, and he graciously said yes. And so I think it's really cool too that like he's going to bring something that like we don't bring, and so on this night, and you're going to experience all sorts of genres and expressions of worship, and which all are worship. And if you like rock and roll, you're going to get it. If you like beautiful melodic music, you're going to get it. If you like hip hop, you're going to get that. You love pop, you're going to get that. And so on these nights, no matter what you like, you're going to get something that is going to speak to you.
Brandon, I know before the summer worship tour, you're going on tour with John Foreman this spring. How are you feeling about that?
Honestly, another dream come true. Man, God cares about your dreams, and he loves making them happen. And I think the quickest way to sing those is living in a place of surrender and obedience to him. And we made the crazy request for Mr. Foreman to come out and join me. And so he's out for most of the dates. And it means a lot to me because he's another songwriter that influenced me at a young age, especially his solo stuff and how artistic and poetic. And we chose his song, which is called Your Love is Strong, as the song that my wife walked down the aisle to. So right as the bridge happens, which is the Lord's Prayer, the door is flung wide open, and I see my bride for the first time in her dress, and I ugly cried. It is the ugliest to date. The ugliest picture I've ever seen of myself is me on the altar looking at my bride, and I'm ugly crying. But yeah, I'm so excited. He's such a pioneer, and has made a huge impact in my life. So it's really special to be able to share these nights with him, and we're going to be singing that song together. And it might even be releasing a version of Your Love is Strong with he and I might be coming out with Apple. Yeah, I'm excited. As of right now, I'm a few days away from the first show. Really just excited to see what's on God's heart. And we've got our plans, but we just really want him to show up and direct the nights. So.
That was Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham. Make sure to check out their Summer Worship Nights tour. As a matter of fact, tickets go on sale today. Check it out. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback. You're listening to Maggie Rogers. The song is So Sick of Dreaming. Today's show is brought to you in part by The Chosen. Season 4 of The Chosen is coming to theaters nationwide on February 1st, and this season has everything. Clashing kingdoms, rival rulers, and when they're threatened by the reality of Jesus' growing influence, religious leaders do the unthinkable, choose to ally themselves with the Romans. As the seeds of betrayal are planted and opposition to Jesus' message turns violent, he's left with no alternative but to demand his followers rise up. So get ready, Relevant Podcast listeners. February 1st is the big release day. Go get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com. All right, it's time for your feedback. It's spring break time. So last week we got talking about spring break trips that don't live up to your expectations. You know, you go to the theme parks and you're stuck shoulder to shoulder with sweaty people all day. It's just not fun. So we wanted to know, what's your worst vacation or trip experience? You hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. Here's a few of our favorites.
Yo, my dog Ross. Hey,
yeah,
first
instantly.
No, Marty, I'll let you read this one.
Instantly, our eyes all went to Ross. Went on a vacation to DC with my ex-wife like 3 weeks after we separated because we had already paid for everything. It was an incredibly awkward few days. 0 out of 10. Would not do again. I don't know. I think Ross...
That's not wise.
Here's the thing.
That sounds like pain, brother.
Here's the other thing too. It's not like Dubai or like even like the
DC.
Caribbean, Washington DC. Like how much could you have prepaid possibly? You know,
I wonder if he still thought there would be like a little hope. Like, hey, maybe
3 weeks after they separated. Of course, he's thinking that they're married. 3 weeks separated. He's going there to rekindle a spark.
But here's the thing: if you're canceling a room at the Marriott in DuPont Circle, I think your bank account will survive here, Ross.
Yeah.
Like it's not like
I hope you got separate rooms.
Oh man.
Well, Bethany, speaking of separate rooms, Bethany got a parasite on her honeymoon, and she said at least it was towards the end of the trip, but she was violently ill for the flight back in about a week after. Yeah, that's so fun.
Oh,
That's
parasite
pain.
on the honeymoon. Ugh. So she's just spending her honeymoon in the bathroom the whole time. Jacob Atkins just said the Mexico City airport. You don't even need to explain. If you've been there, you already know. I actually haven't been to Mexico City.
I've been there,
Yeah, I
and
haven't been there.
it hasn't been bad at all. It was a good experience. It's pretty nice. It's like going to Fort Lauderdale. I don't know. Maybe it was back when he went.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to enough third world country airports that I'm not fazed by any bad airport experience at this point. Like,
the Haitian airport is wild. Port-au-Prince.
Yeah,
So,
Port-au-Prince.
like,
Ooh,
absolutely.
Dominican Republic airport.
Man, it's crazy what's happening in Haiti right now.
It's sad, man. It's
really
it's
sad.
awful. Yeah. It's awful, man. Haiti just can't catch a break, bro. Like, I mean, if it's not coups and government overthrows, it's earthquakes, and then it's tornado. I mean, it's hurricanes. It's, man, prayers up for my Haitian.
Been there multiple times. We helped rebuild some schools there. Relevant did back in the day after the earthquake, and like it's crazy when you're flying over the island and you go from the Dominican Republic side. And then you cross over the airspace into the Haiti side. It is like the lush tropical forest just stops, and there's a hard line in the topography because Haiti is scalped because of the economic, the poverty. The villagers will go up into the mountains and like chop down the trees for firewood for sustenance, and then that creates mudslides and it scalps the topography, and then they can't farm it, and then it's just horrible. It's horrible what's happening. Yeah. Anyway, all right. It's time for this week's
editorial question of the week. Hey.
All right. Well, Jesse talked about getting yelled at by Hannibal Buress and Sufjan Stevens' stepdad. We want to know times in your life that maybe you had an unfortunate encounter with somebody famous, or maybe a faith leader or something. When did you get yelled at, and what did you do to prompt getting yelled at by this person that you maybe you approached Denzel Washington at a restaurant and you just wanted to say hi, and he lit you up because you were bothering his family dinner. Something like that. Tell us your terrible celebrity encounter, and why did you get yelled at by them? Hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast, and we'll read our favorites at next week's show.
I got yelled at by Lil Wayne, so that's perfect. I'll share it next week.
Well, before we wrap things up, I want to thank Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham for joining us. Make sure to check out their Summer Worship Nights tour as it goes around the country this summer. Their tickets go on sale today. Go check it out. Bring a friend. Bring a bunch of friends. It'll be a great day. Hey, before we say goodbye, make sure to check out issue 114 Irrelevant. We have a lot of great content. Rainn Wilson is in it. Need to Breathe. Brooke Lidgett Wood. Mike Todd, a whole bunch of others. Check it out. It's available for free at relevantmagazine.com. Just click the magazine tab. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, The Covenant, which is available now on Apple TV. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Marty.
All right, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
So it wasn't the last time I got yelled at by a publicist.
Relevant Podcast Network.